Ask and you shall receive. The Browns are signing another linebacker. It is former 10th overall pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, Devin Bush, who was last with Seattle after a 4-year stint in Pittsburgh. So we're going to react to the signing. We'll break it down. We'll run through the stats and whatnot on today's show. And then we'll look at an updated depth chart for every single position now that the Browns have made a bunch of signings. But if you have noticed something here, it is we don't miss signings. So if you're looking for a YouTube channel to keep you up to date on every single move, and I mean every single move the Browns make, subscribe today and get us to 34,000 subscribers. Now, Devin Bush comes over to Cleveland after one season in Seattle where he appeared in 13 games, and like his last year in Pittsburgh, he made zero to little impact at all, which is why I'm not very excited about this signing. I know that the Browns are working within some cap constraints and parameters and whatnot, but Devin Bush is just not a very good football player. I mean, look at a 2022 season. Last year in Pittsburgh, contract year, right? An opportunity to maybe make some money for yourself, and 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, 0 interceptions, 81 tackles. He's just never been a real playmaker, and sure, he's solid in tackling, but that's really about it. And hey, there are a lot of guys that I can pay $1.5 million to be solid in tackling and play special teams, but I would hope if you're a starting linebacker, which I think that's going to be Devin Bush's case for the time being, you can provide a little bit more oomph at that position, right? And you can look at his PFF overall grades through 5 years in the NFL, and he's never gone above 62.9 his rookie season with Pittsburgh. I mean, we all know that that's a city that just breeds linebackers, and for Devin Bush to never really find a spot there, it definitely makes you scratch your head why Andrew Berry is pursuing him. Now, what's a little bit funny is Jordan Hicks is actually currently having his introductory press conference over Zoom, and he's talking about JOK, and of course, they signed him a new running mate while he's doing that press conference. And I think Devin Bush starts if they have a game tomorrow, but there is the NFL draft. And so my working theory is I still think the Browns, I'm trying to talk this into existence, go get a nice linebacker earlier in the draft and have him compete with Devin Bush for that last linebacker starting gig. Because they gave pretty serious-ish money to Jordan Hicks, 2 years, $8 million, where you can have full belief that he is this team's starting middle linebacker. You've got JOK on one end. So now it's kind of Devin Bush, Tony Fields, Diabate, and then we'll toss in a rookie like Amari Cooper out of Texas A&M, Jeremiah Trotter out of Clemson, maybe one of those guys in rounds 2 or 3 of the draft, and that's your final part of the linebacker rotation. So let me get your opinion on this, though. Should the Browns keep signing players, or do you feel like they are pretty set right now? I do want to say that this fan base, the things that people bicker about now compared to 10 years ago, the biggest issue people had with the Browns over the last week or so was the backup quarterback signing, which, listen, I want some answers, too, as to why they said they wanted to bring back Joe Flacco, and then according to Mary Kay Cabot, they never made him an offer, and he gets the same contract in Indianapolis. But the Browns this offseason, they didn't have a whole ton of work to do. They're coming off an 11-win season. They just needed to bring back a couple of key parts, which they did, and get some good play out of Deshaun Watson, and this team is ready to roll, so I was not expecting a major offseason. They did make a splashish move by trading for Jerry Jeudy, but when we run through the updated depth charts now, you've got Nick Chubb hopefully coming back on the Sooner side. If not, this is a roll of the dice from Andrew Berry that Jerome Ford and Naheem Hines and then maybe Pierre Strong Jr., John Kelly, and or a rookie kind of making that third running back spot can get the job done until Chubb is healthy. But the wide receiver room definitely had a solid addition to it. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, the Southeast Florida boys, now a bunch of Fort Lauderdales hanging out in Cleveland. Hopefully Amari Cooper can kind of put Jerry Jeudy under his wing and get him up to speed, because we know what Steve Smith had to say about Jeudy, but the Browns clearly didn't give a shit about what the former future Hall of Fame wide receiver had to say. So the wide receiver room definitely got a bit of a splash like it needed. Tight end wise, you move on from Harrison Bryant You bring in Giovanni Ricci, who's going to be more of a tight end blocker / fullback. That's at least what he started off in Carolina. I'll be honest, guys, I had never heard of Giovanni Ricci until last night. That was just a brand new name to, I think, all of us watching. Offensive line-wise, there really wasn't a whole lot of movement to be had here. I did see on Twitter some chatter about trading Wyatt Teller. Stop it. Just stop trying to trade good players. I understand that there are certain times when you need to get draft picks and you're not really ready to go out and win a Super Bowl with the current roster constructed. But Andrew Berry has put together the best roster in Cleveland Browns history. Stop trying to strip all the good players from it. All right, that's my TED Talk. Defensive line-wise, you brought back Shelby Harris. You signed Quentin Jefferson. You brought back Maurice Hurst. You've got 4 experienced defensive tackles right there alone. And then you introduce Siaka Ika entering his second season, probably a rookie as well. And you've got really good depth at that spot. You've got the same edge rushers essentially last year. Okoronkwo, Zadarius Smith. Hopefully Alex Wright continues to grow into a larger role. And I wouldn't put past Andrew Berry to maybe add another edge rusher like he did last May with Zadarius Smith. Then making our way towards the secondary, the linebacker position does have me a little bit on the queasier end. It's not like Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush are clear upgrades from Anthony Walker and Taki Taki. I would have rather had Taki Taki back over Devin Bush. Not quite sure why the Browns decided to move on from him. It's not like he got a huge contract in New England. 2 years, $6 million deal. I don't see why they couldn't have swung for that over a 1-year near vet min, which would be about 1.5-ish for Devin Bush. So an extra $1 to $2 million really going to make or break the Browns' books? Probably not, when you could have had a really good starting linebacker returning. So the Devin Bush signing, I hope, is not the final piece of the linebacker acquisitions. Now, as for the secondary, it was already just loaded. I mean, all these guys coming back under contract. You signed Juan Thornhill last offseason. That was sort of the last piece needed as for the current secondary units here. So they added Tony Brown. He's going to be your Mike Ford replacement. He'll offer a lot of upside on special teams. And if a cornerback goes down, he can step in and play at that spot. So the Browns really didn't have a whole lot of vacancies in free agency to fill, right? We can recap all the moves they made, starting off with the Jerry Jeudy trade. Zadarius Smith, the biggest signing, $23.5 million. He returns. He says, he's feeling something special in the air in Cleveland, so how can you not be excited about that? Maurice Hurst, Jordan Hicks, bring back Hurst, bring in Hicks, Jameis Winston. I mean, that's like the most controversial signing of the bunch, and I think we're probably getting a little bit too worked up over the backup quarterback position. Don't you agree? How many of you guys hated the Josh Dobbs signing? Show your hands. How many of you loved Josh Dobbs in the preseason? Keep your hands up. And then how many of you hated when they traded Josh Dobbs? Still keep them up. And then how many of you were okay that they traded Josh Dobbs when you saw how it ended in Minnesota? So I think we'll all probably warm up to Jameis Winston at some point. Nyheim Hines, though, that one a little bit uneasy about. I feel like they should have gone for a bigger fish in the running back market based on how Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt were meh last year without Nick Chubb. Quentin Jefferson, 1-year deal. This is just the Browns going, you know what? We want to get after the quarterback. And we feel like last year, one of our greatest strengths was our defensive line. And he comes off the best season of his NFL career, six sack season with the Jets. Before that, he was back with the Seattle Seahawks, where he was originally drafted. Before that, the Las Vegas Raiders, and then the Buffalo Bills. So he's on to his 5th team in as many seasons, but for a guy that comes off a 6-sack year and he might not even start on this defensive line because it's just that talented, yeah, I can be pretty optimistic about the Browns having a great defense in 2024 again. So those are some of the other free agent signings like we talked about, and all in all, I think Andrew Berry didn't have a whole lot of chess pieces to move. And I don't think he's done, right? I think Andrew Berry has shown us that if a window opens up to improve the roster, he's always going to pick up the phone and inquire. How many deals do you think Andrew Berry came so close to doing that ultimately he didn't pull the trigger on, but he's just that busy of a GM? Like, he is always working the phones, always trying to improve this team's roster, where I think there are a lot of teams that have GMs that don't have an ownership above them that give them the green light to make these signings and give out these contracts and just full blessing to go do whatever they need to do to build the best roster possible. So there may be another trade or two in Andrew Berry, especially when we get closer to the draft. But for now, I think you should probably lower your expectations on more signings coming for the Browns. I want to wrap up the show by just doing a quick AFC North look around here, starting with Derrick Henry, who got a 2-year, $16 million contract with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I can see on the surface level why this would be concerning, right? Having to deal with Derrick Henry twice a season and knowing he'll help fuel the Ravens to a potential AFC North championship, yeah, that's not going to make us sleep well. I think we can all agree. But I am here to say history is somewhat on the Browns, Steelers, and Bengals side. So I looked at some of the NFL record books, and what I found was there have been a couple of running backs that are over the age of 30 and had 1,100 or more yards in a season. However, the last one to do it was LeGarrette Blount in 2016. Adrian Peterson, an all-time great, did it, as did Frank Gore and Willis McGahee. But it's been a long time since any running back has been 30 years or older and rushed for 1,100 or more yards. So with that being said, Derrick Henry does feel like an exception type of player, right? Kind of like Nick Chubb, where that knee injury at that age is probably a bit of a death sentence, but Nick Chubb is Batman. Like, I wouldn't put it past him to not skip a beat coming off this injury. And maybe Derrick Henry doesn't let Father Time catch up to him. Or maybe he is one of many recent running backs that when they get to 30, well, you can see how long it's been since any of them have had a successful season. As for the Pittsburgh Steelers, signing Russell Wilson to a 1-year, $1.2 million contract is, face value-wise, a really good signing, right? It's great value. Russell Wilson is a top 32 quarterback in this league, and he's being paid like the 64th quarterback in this league. So, like, dollar for dollar, this is a great signing for the Steelers, right? I think Russell Wilson still has some decent play left in him, and for $1.2 million, it's not costing you a thing because the Broncos are stuck with the remaining bill, and the Pittsburgh Steelers bring in some good quarterback competition for Kenny Pickett, who I told you guys for almost 2 years now, he sucks. Here's the thing, though, with the Russell Wilson signing. Everywhere I look from Steelers fans, the number one thing they talk about is, but the value. It's $1.2 million. You can't beat that. It's a great signing. And hey, it is good value. But let me ask Steelers fans this. Say the season starts, it's early October, and Pittsburgh is 2-4. Because Russell Wilson is playing the same way he played last year, maybe even a little bit worse since he's on to another head coach in 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and a new play caller and whatnot, a new city, slow start, and, well, is anyone going to be bragging about the value at that point? Right? If Russell Wilson continues to play the way he did the last 2 years in Denver, which maybe there's a good reason why the Broncos decided to eat $85 million in dead cap money just to move on from him. Pittsburgh may not love the value anymore when they're losing in October. And sure, they didn't pay him a whole lot, but are they concerned about the Rooney's wallets, or do they want wins? Because if they're concerned about the Rooney's wallets, then this is a great signing. But if they're tired of being super duper slightly above mid, since they are making the playoffs more often than not recently, but not doing anything in the playoffs, I don't think Russell Wilson's the solution to their problems. I think Russell Wilson puts them right back to where they were last year, which is a team that might win 9 games, maybe even 10. Go to the playoffs and lose in round 1. So if that's what Pittsburgh wants to do, hey, there's a lot of teams that would love to be in that camp, right? The Carolina Panthers would love to lose in the first round of the playoffs next year. But I think we can all agree in Pittsburgh, the bar is a bit higher. And Russell Wilson, I don't think, increases that bar for them. So if you believe in Andrew Berry, by the way, as free agency is alive and underway right now, type me in the comment section. This serves 2 purposes. One, I just want to see how much trust and faith and fan base has with Andrew Berry. And also, I just want to know who's watching all the way to the end of the video. All right, let's pick a card, though. I've got producer Smitty rocking and rolling with me right now.
Let's do this thing.
What are you thinking, buddy?
I'm going to go with 6 of clubs.
6 of clubs. I'm going to go with the 5 of spades. One last cut. Queen of diamonds.
Ooh.
Queen of
I think I
diamonds.
went that last time I guessed a card.
Tough beat. All right, boys and girls, we will sign off. We will see you guys later when we get more Browns free agency news and rumors.